Yes, people, welcome back to the Football Psych YouTube channel, where today I'm going to be discussing pressure, but more specifically, two things in particular. The first one is pressure that comes with replacing a club legend. And the other one, is there any added pressure when adopting a different kit number? Numbers such as 7, 10 and 9 and so on. But before we get into that, make sure if you're new around here and you enjoy football content, you do consider subscribing. You're in the right place after all. Make sure if you enjoy the video, you give me a like, and also click the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. It would be rude not to. But now that's done, let's talk football. So yes, how much pressure comes with replacing a club legend? I think there's a few things to consider. One of them being, how much of a legacy did the individual leave that is no longer at the club? And maybe you've got to take into account the age and ambitions of the player coming in as a replacement. So I think it goes without saying that the bigger the legacy left by a player, the more pressure on the individual coming in as a replacement. So I think the most recent example that sticks out to me is Phil Foden ultimately replacing David Silva at Man City. Now, David Silva is one of the best Spaniards, if not one of the best players to ever grace the Premier League. So there's definitely a lot of pressure on the cards from the get-go. So David Silva is your traditional cam or attacking midfielder. He loved to kind of find himself in between the lines, picking up space in pockets, receiving the ball in tight areas, and one of the most creative players that we've seen in the Premier League for a long time. And Foden is a similar player. I think Pep's tried to rubbish any comparisons between the two directly. I think Foden's got legs on his side. David Silva, even in his prime when he was younger, come to the Premier League when he was 24. He wasn't all about pace, but more kind of flair and precision, whereas Foden's got a bit more running power with him. So similar players, both, like to kind of pick up spaces in them pockets, like I said. But David Silva is an absolute legend, to say the least. So let's look at some of David Silva's stats in the Premier League. And let's note that it is Premier League and not other competitions, so we can compare the two side by side. So here we are, midfielder, played 309 times for Manchester City, scoring 60 goals, getting 93 assists and winning 214 games. So not a bad win ratio. And he was always a vital part of them City teams. No matter who they brought in, he was always pivotal in their success and at the centre of most of the good things they did. I guess another important statistic to look at is his goals per match, which is 0.19. And then I did some calculations and found out that he got a goal or assist every 2 matches in the Premier League. That was his average. So again, very impressive. A creative player playing in that advanced kind of 10 role, advanced 8 role. But still, his output was very impressive for Man City over a sustained period as well, which I think is the most impressive thing about him as a player. So that's David Silva, a breakdown of his numbers in the Premier League. But what about Phil Foden? So important to note, the games are considerably less. However, 63 appearances at the age of 20 is very impressive. Like I mentioned already, David Silva come to Manchester City when he was 24. So if Phil Foden's got the longevity of some of the players that go into their early 30s, then I feel like he's got time on his side. So like I said, 20 years old, 63 games played in the Premier League. Already picked up 12 goals and 8 assists in that time. So Phil Foden has the same goals per match statistic as his Spanish counterpart. But I think the real difference is in the assists. I think Foden has got a lot of goals in his game, but maybe where he needs to adjust things a little bit more or kind of make improvements is his actual creation of chances, with only 8 assists compared to David Silva's. I think, in terms of the ratio, it's not quite as impressive. But like I said, he's 20 years old. He's still not had a massive run in the team. Maybe he's just starting to now. So he's got time on his side. And if his career's a long one, I'm sure he's going to break all sorts of records for Man City. So if there wasn't enough pressure already for Phil Foden, stepping into the boots of David Silva, one of the best players in City's history and the Premier League, then Pep definitely took it up a few notches in multiple interviews, but more importantly in January 2020, when asked about David Silva's departure and what they do as a club to maybe fill that void in the team, he come out and said this: "We don't need a replacement. We already have Phil Foden." Now that's massive. I think it's great to show confidence in your players and show a bit of faith in them, but that's a very big thing to say, and I think so far you could argue that Foden's taken that on board in a positive way and not let him overwhelm him. But it's big boots to fill, a legend of the club, and you're 18, 19 when you're coming into the fold, and now at 20 years old, you're his replacement. So definitely the pressure was piled on by Pep in a sense, but I think, Foden's dealt with it so far in a very good way. So that's dealing with pressure that comes with replacing a club legend or coming in to fill a void in a team when an older player moves on. But what about the pressure that comes with kit numbers? Now that seems a bit silly, but you think of, traditionally a club like Manchester United, the number 7 shirt, how much that means to pull on that jersey, the history, the success, the legacy that's been left behind by previous players. And normally it's given obviously to a big money name that comes in, and even the number 9 shirt, you think of Martial wearing that at the moment. Now, I'm not saying it's completely down to this, but, is part of his downfall or kind of him not reaching his potential down to the fact that he's wearing such an important shirt, the number 9 shirt. You're the talisman of that team. You're supposed to be the main man, leading the line, scoring the goals, kind of dragging your team out of situations, and he's just not been doing that. And it definitely kind of comes into play in terms of mindset problems. And, every time he's in the dressing room pulling on that jersey, does he kind of think, who's worn this shirt before me? And does that overwhelm him and therefore lead to his performances being substandard? I think another example is Christian Pulisic at Chelsea. Ever since he's been handed the number 10 shirt, he's not been the same, Is it playing on his mind a little bit? Eden Hazard obviously was our number 10 for a long time. One of the best players in the league, one of the best players in Chelsea's history in terms of natural ability and talent. So how much does that come into play? Not that they're reminded of it all the time, but maybe every time they see that number in the dressing room, Martial, Pulisic, does it just kind of put a few thoughts in there and kind of, put them off their game a little bit? But that is going to be all for this video. A bit of a different one again, and it was a suggestion on my Instagram. So make sure that if you're not already, go and follow it. I'll put it just there at the Football Psych. So you can take part in polls and get a little bit involved with the channel, when I'm active on there. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think that, that's rubbish, a shirt number can't, change your mindset or kind of play into the psychology of football? But let me know. I think, the bigger kind of factor is definitely replacing a club legend, the legacy that's left behind. It's a lot of pressure, it's big boots to fill. But let me know your thoughts. I hope you did enjoy the video. Who knows, maybe you learned something too. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.
Been crying so much to the poltergeist, trying to hold on to love, but it's frosted.